You're listening to the NFPT podcast, where we help aspiring trainers pass their exams and launch their fitness careers. I'm Erin Mahoney, and today we're talking about one of the most important things, and probably why you're here in the first place, is what's on the CPT exam. Let's start by talking through what that exam experience is like. First of all, there are 120 questions on your exam. 100 of those questions are scored and 20 of them are not scored. Those 20 questions that are not scored are called pre-test questions. That means they don't count for you or against you if you get them right or wrong. They're just there collecting data to see if they can eventually become scored questions on your exam. This is important information because you might go into test day and you might come up against a question that is worded strangely, and maybe there is no correct answer, or there's more than one correct answer. And so rather than panicking and letting it derail your entire exam experience, you can take a deep breath in and remember this could be one of those pre-test questions and just move on. All of your questions are going to be multiple choice. So you've got the question, and then you've got 4 unique answer options that you can choose from. You'll get 2 hours to complete your exam. So that is about 1 minute per question. And realistically, most students finish their exam in about an hour or an hour and a half. So 2 hours is plenty of time for you. You don't need to be rushing. The exam is proctored and you won't be able to access your notes or your textbook. So you just got to rely on everything that you remember for exam day. But the good news is there is no math or any videos that you have to analyze or any images that you have to identify things like components of the cell. And you get scored immediately after you finish. So you'll know right away whether you passed or failed. And then speaking of passing, NFPT's first-time pass rate is 82%, and this is the highest in the industry. Now, if you are not enrolled in a CPT program yet, or if you're enrolled in another CPT program, you should take a look, research what the first-time pass rate is with the organization that you're checking out, because most first-time pass rates are around 65 to 70%. So that says a lot about the preparation that organization gives you in order to pass your exam. All right, now moving on. The standard topics that you'll find on your CPT exam, regardless of which one you're going through, include anatomy, physiology, the 5 components of fitness, program design, and professional practice. Now, there's some meaty topics in there. So if you're the type of person who likes examples and understanding complex information in simple terms, then you've really got to check out our recorded exam prep series. It's 4 webinars that supplement any CPT program, and it gives you easy ways to understand these complex topics. When you are going through your CPT course, you have chapters and modules, and each one of these chapters aren't equally weighted on your final exam. So instead, what you need to do is you need to go back to those topics that we just discussed, and you need to know what percentage they are reflected on your exam. So for example, 20% of your CPT exam will be questions related to human anatomy. So this is stuff like your bones and the types of joints you have, and of course, the different muscles that are involved in different movements. Then you've got 19% of your exam that is devoted to physiology. Now that's where muscle fiber types come in and energy systems. Then you've got 23% of your exam questions are going to be over the 5 components of fitness. So that includes things like body composition, flexibility, cardiorespiratory conditioning, muscular endurance, and muscular strength. Then we've got a whopping 33% that is devoted to program design. So program design is what you think it would be. It's things like how many repetitions should you be doing for a certain goal type, or how long should your rest intervals be? Or how do you increase lean body mass or decrease body fat? So there's a lot of different ways these questions can be worded. And with program design, you typically need a pretty good understanding of anatomy and the fitness components in order to answer these questions correctly. So even though these are 4 separate major topics on the exam, they really do all intertwine together. There is one last topic on the exam called professional practice. And this one's only about 5% of the questions on your exam. So it includes things like scope of practice. Can you recommend specific dietary strategies? And it also includes things like communication skills. All very important, but not as many questions on your final exam. So, as you start studying, the best way to go about it is to remember that you shouldn't be memorizing details that aren't going to be heavily weighted on the test. So, things like, let's say, for example, you're struggling with nutrition concepts or how the digestive system breaks everything down. Well, that's not really reflected too broadly on your exam. So, you don't really want to waste that valuable mental real estate on things that you're not even going to be tested over. Instead, you've got to focus on those bigger buckets and think about key movement patterns and the different training principles. Because when you think about it, this is what personal trainers do day in and day out. So, as you're going through and you're studying, try to think like a future personal trainer. What would be the things that you would need to know in order to observe a client and their movement and be able to make sound programming decisions for them? So, remember, the smart way to prepare for your exam is to focus on what the exam covers. Now, rest assured, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know the right things. In fact, 20% of what your textbook covers reflects 80% of what is on that exam. So, how do you weed through and know what that 20% is so that you can nail that 80% on the exam? That's what studying smart is all about. When you go through, what you really want to do is hone your focus. So you're focused on those weighted domains. You aren't going to memorize everything. And you also want to understand things in context or in application. So as you're learning the information, instead of just doing flashcards and trying to do rote memorization, you want to think about it in a broader perspective of what that looks like out on the gym floor. This will help you master the big concepts more easily, and it'll help you answer questions regardless of how they're worded. And the other thing is first-time CPT students, they often struggle with test anxiety. Don't let this happen to you. You can feel prepared walking into test day, and we give you everything you need to pass the exam in as little as 30 to 60 days. And the NFPT CPT core gives you everything you need. We don't upcharge you for additional features because we want you to pass. We want you to be successful in the industry. But if you're already enrolled in another CPT program, and if you're here, you might be struggling or feeling overwhelmed or frustrated, you really should check out the recorded CPT exam prep series by NFPT. This supplements any CPT program, and we take those big buckets and we give you memory hacks and we help you understand them every single day when you're working out. So we have people thanking us all the time for helping them pass their exams with confidence. All right, thank you for joining, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the latest episodes where we walk through our proprietary learning model and also sample exam questions so that you get into the practice of understanding how these things might be worded. All right, be well, keep moving. See you soon. Today's episode is brought to you by Summit Professional Education. Unlock your potential with Summit Professional Education, your trusted partner for expert-led courses, flexible learning, and essential CEUs. Elevate your skills today at summiteducation.com.